Welcome to the Fat Fuel Family Podcast, where every week Danny and Maura Vega discuss topics that help families live a healthy and active lifestyle with their little ones, including nutrition and training, peaceful parenting, education, and mindset. To stay up to date, make sure to hit subscribe on this podcast and check out the blog at www.fatfueled.family. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram at dannyvega.ms, at fatfueledmom, and at fatfueledkids, and Fat Fueled Family on YouTube. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Fat Fuel Family Podcast. This is episode 139, the Civic Bitchslap. This is going to be with our friend Stacy Shay. First, a few announcements, guys. I know I've been telling you guys a few weeks now about the Low Carb Hustle podcast. Definitely check it out, man. We have had an amazing time. The first month was great. We had Brandon Scott on. We had Crystal come on. We did our first low carb game show. You guys, if you haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. It's Robert Sykes, Keto Savage, myself, and Adam Shively, formerly Million Pound Mission, and now Low Carb Hustle. Guys, it's just a great podcast. If you're interested in getting lean, getting strong, and getting paid, you know, we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff with people who want to get involved on the entrepreneurship side of things, because that's one of our biggest focuses. So definitely check it out, lowcarbhustlepodcast.com. We'd love for you guys to subscribe. We'd love for you guys to give us some positive feedback, some 5-star ratings and reviews, just like we do with this podcast, because this is how we increase our platform. This is how we can get in touch with bigger people and bring on some of these awesome guests. So definitely check that out. Also, I'm going to be including in the show description the Rockbody Retreat for this year. We finally have our first live link for this year's Rockbody Retreat. Last year, we had, in the middle of a pandemic, we had 100 people join us in Tulum, Mexico at the Hard Rock Riviera Maya. It was an epic trip, and it was obviously great because a lot of these people are coming back. And instead of 100 people, we've already bought 100 rooms. So we're expecting about 250 people on this one. So guys, definitely check that out and check out the link for that. It's going to be at a 4-diamond resort. And this is the Fives Beach Resort that Maura and I and the boys went there in August. This thing is amazing. You got like 7 swimming pools. They're all throughout the rooms. It's all you can eat, all inclusive meal and dining. We're going to have morning optional workouts. We're going to be having a nutrition and fitness seminar, you know, hands-on and, you know, just didactic, the theory and the practice. The last thing I want to tell you guys about is my secret weapon. I've covered like about 270 miles this month, which blows my mind when you think about it. It's been a crazy month. It's been an amazing month, and I've gotten like 20 lifting workouts in, and this thing has been, honestly, I tell people I haven't been this excited about a supplement since creatine. It's got to have something to do with my success. I feel recovered. I feel great. So I'm putting a link for that. Just know that if you guys want to try this out, first of all, do your research. Look at its molecular hydrogen. So this is a selective antioxidant, and you can look at molecularhydrogenstudies.com to check it out, see what it's all about. There's 482 studies there, so you can take your pick in some great journals. And if you spend $50, you get 20% off for the year, so you're an automatic VIP customer. And if you spend $100, you get free shipping. So I'm going to put a link for buy 3, get 1 free if you want to grab a bunch of them. If you just want to try it once, no problem. Don't take my word for it. But if you want to, get in on that and get buy 3, get 1 free, you'll stock up for a few months there, and you'll save a ton of money. So check that out. And then I'll let Maura introduce our guest. We had an amazing conversation with her, and take it from there, my love.
Awesome, guys. We are so excited for you to hear this episode. This was an amazing interview. This week's guest is Stacy Shay. She is the president of Unbreakable Leadership, political consultant and strategist, former financial advisor, former volunteer command family ombudsman, Spartan wife of previous guest and friend of the show, Thom Shea, mom of 3 extraordinary hooligans, and a devoted citizen of the Republic. We hope you enjoy this great conversation with a great human being, and definitely check out her new podcast, The Civic Bitchslap.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to take a quick minute to talk about our sponsor, Keto Brick. As you guys know, I have been around since the very beginning when it was just an idea, when Robert was getting ready for the show that took him pro, and he needed something to help him hit his macros. And I've seen it grow into the company it is today. Just so proud of my friend, and I'm so proud of the company he's built, the people he's been able to help, as he has several people who work for them. And so he's actually helping people make a living doing this now, which is just unbelievable and so inspirational to me. If you don't know what keto bricks are, they are shelf-stable fat bombs, for lack of a better term. They are 1,000 calorie bricks, and they have great ingredients. They have ketogenic macros, usually like 88 to 90 grams of fat with 30 grams of protein. And then the carbs are anywhere from 9 to 14. Super low carb, super keto friendly, and you can do all types of cool stuff with them. I tell everybody my favorite is Keto Brick cereal. I chop it up into little chunks and serve it with a bowl of cereal with almond milk or goat milk, which is my favorite. They have several flavors. They now have vegan and whey options. So they have the whey protein peanut butter as well as the old school pea protein peanut butter, which either one of them is easily in my top two. Go back and forth between those and the toasted almond coconut. So definitely go to www.ketobrick.com, get yourself some bricks, and use Vega for a chance to win a whole month supply of bricks. Hey Stacy, how's it going?
Hey, Danny, it's great. I hope y'all are doing well.
Well,
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We've really been looking forward to it. When Danny told me that you scheduled yourself, I'm like, man, she's on it. I'm like, I'm so excited. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So we appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about powerful things that are going on in our country. It's easy to get distracted right now with a lot of things going on, but the great hidden story is that people are resilient and all about making big changes in a positive way.
absolutely.
I absolutely love that. Well, we want to get right into these conversations. So we always lead off with the question, what is the most critical problem you are currently trying to solve?
The most critical problem I'm currently trying to solve is to help people all across the country find a way or teach them the way. I know the way, but to share with them and to teach them the way to gain and wield their civic authority in what to many people feels like a broken system where we have no voice. But I'm here to tell them I have those answers to how you can get involved powerfully and you can engage the political process and make your voice heard.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's great because
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, like with me, it's a little bit of I'll tell you, we were involved with the Ron Paul campaign like in 2012,
Yeah.
and that was, we became disillusioned, and we kind of swore off the political process, and we don't want to, for those who want to get involved, like I don't personally want to play the game, but I think there's still things that we can do as far as like as a movement that can get people to understand what our rights are. A lot of the people have a misunderstanding of what we can do and what the government can do to us. So I think it's important because if people knew a lot of the things that happened over the past year, I don't think would have happened. What do you say about that?
I absolutely agree. I would suggest that your listening audience and most people in our country, if you ask them for the definition of a right, they couldn't even give it to you. But the definition of a right is a just claim. But then how are you going to exercise your authority for that just claim? And to your point about being involved with any campaign and seeing how the sausage is made either during the campaign or afterward and being discouraged, count yourselves among millions of Americans. But that's by design that a lot of people want us to stay out of the process. They don't want they want us to feel powerless. And I'm here to tell you that it's a very small number of people and a very small amount of money that it takes to really influence a lot of change. And I'm going to botch this quote, but I'm going to try to remember it anyway. It was Samuel Adams. And he said, "It does not take a majority to prevail. Rather, a tireless, irate minority keen on beating brush fires of freedom in the minds of men." I actually remembered it.
That's
Wow,
very
that's
empowering.
great.
Yeah, so it's true. And to that point, my husband is Thom Shea, retired Navy SEAL, and we have a leadership company that we train executives and people all across the country and in fact, before COVID, all across the world to become the best version of themselves in 5 areas of their life. But on the flip side of that, I'm really involved in teaching people on a nonpartisan way, truly, how to engage in the civic process. Of course, my particular ideology is obviously going to be conservative. And so those are the people I tend to work with. But it takes all of us, regardless of our ideology, to engage that process in order to insist that the government is sensitive to our needs, not the other way around. And to that end, I have a podcast that I've started with 2 of my friends who we have a small political consulting firm. And the name of the podcast is the Civic Bitchslap.
I love it.
That is
That's
so
too
great.
good.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
great. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it'll be launching on Friday. We just finished taping our first 3 episodes, but we really want to talk in foundational terminology about, how is, what is power? What is influence? Who can have it? How do you learn to use it? And people are really going to have to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, is my freedom worth working for? Because you cannot be free and live in a republic without working for it.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, to your point, like I've been thinking a lot about the Thomas Paine quote, like these are the times that test men's lives and like,
Summertime soldier.
yeah, because it's just like, so many people, I've seen so many people and it's a little disappointing because there's so many people that talk the talk, and I have all of Tom's teachings fresh in my head because I just finished Unbreakable and I'm in the middle of 3 Simple Things. And the whole idea of like keeping your word, and hearing people say things like, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and I say to myself, no, you're not, and honestly what you're saying is just bluster, and it's not realistic and it's not effective. Why don't you really try to understand, like, from a realistic standpoint, what you can do instead of just waiting on, it's that whole hope thing that Tom talks about, hoping and waiting, and then when it doesn't happen, then you just throw your hands up in the air, and then it's like we're lost. And that's not where we should be. We should be taking action. And these things run in cycles. There's whenever something happens, it's physics. There's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, really. And
well,
I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are discouraged and having a lot of despair. And I really want to say, put that worry aside, turn off all the media, all of it. It's their job to keep you discouraged.
Yeah. And
And
cheerful.
a few things. A third of the country doesn't believe that Joe Biden is legitimately elected. Their left is freaking out about that and trying to figure out how to control us. And the more that they push, the harder it's going to be. The latest polling shows that President Trump's approval ratings are as high as they've ever been.
Right.
yeah, I saw
Which
that.
tells me the echo chamber of the media, the left, Hollywood, all of it. They've reached the end of their influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And it's
now
gotten so like it's so obvious more than ever, like with the censorship
everything
online.
that happens in government is now on them.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
now blamed for everything. So good luck.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we just had our friend Linda. She's, Colombian born. She went through the naturalization process. So it's like always good to talk to people who can really appreciate how unique we are in this country. And we're sons. I'm a son, and my wife is a daughter of Cuban exiles. Like we grew up
Y'all
hearing these
get it.
stories. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get it. So it's disappointing when some people in our generation don't, but for the most part, we do. So she was just deplatformed on Instagram.
Yeah.
She just lost her profile.
Yeah.
So
Ridiculous.
you gotta take action. You gotta start building your email list, start building different platforms and all that, because it's not going to stop. I mean, you heard Jack from Twitter. He's like, this thing's not going to go away. This is going to be ongoing for a long time, and it's going to be worldwide.
So listen, another fabulous all-American thing is You have the 5 big guys, the behemoths of them all, telling half the country, I don't want your business anymore. You know what's going to happen. We've seen this story before. We've seen this movie. Other providers are going to begin to pop up.
Exactly.
Yep.
This is the American way. And I'm excited about it all. I mean, I hate that anybody's having to go through being silenced, being deplatformed, losing their livelihood. I was reading what's gone on with Laura Loomer. That's awful. I mean, what you see going on with that poor woman is literally like as if we're living in a communist country. The left has overplayed their hand, and there's going to be consequences for it. So we're just going to be here to take advantage of all the opportunities that exist because of all that. Yep.
Yep. So let's back up a little bit, because we know you've been involved in a variety of endeavors, from financial advising and banking to now political strategy and consulting. But can you share, some of the key learnings from your upbringing and previous relationships that may have contributed to you becoming the Spartan wife that you are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had a less than ideal childhood, but it wasn't horrible. My parents were divorced when I was 8. Like tons and tons of children all across the country. It's no different. It comes with a certain amount of hardships, but I think we all find our way through all those things, and either you're going to gather strength from it, or you're going to use those experiences to be an excuse for your weakness. The choice is yours. And I was always determined not to let that define me. Another big moment for me, on my 15th birthday, I was in a head-on collision, and my brother was driving me to meet our dad for birthday dinner. And my brother had his chest hit the steering wheel so hard that his aorta burst. He almost died. And I had 160 stitches in my face, which as a teenage girl is not an easy place to be. So trying to find my way through that probably made me the strong young woman that I was. It also, created a tremendous amount of weakness in the moment. It's a tough place to be. And then in terms of relationships, I mean, you've read the book. I've been married twice before Thom. It's not something I'm proud of. I never wanted to be divorced. I never wanted to give up on, a relationship, and certainly not on a marriage. Perspective is everything in life, and we're seeing the need in contemporaneous times for people to really have control over their perspective. It can eat your lunch. So my perspective was never that I'm a quitter. I left relationships where I was being abused, or I was being cheated on, or both. And I was not going to tolerate that. But at the same time, I never took on the mindset that men are the problem, or men are evil, or it's not going to work for me. I just kept thinking and envisioning, this is the life I want. I'm going to sit down and think about it. I'm going to visualize it every day, several times a day. And eventually, Thom walked into my life as a real surprise, unexpected. So, and being with him, having been through his share of struggles and never quitting, I think that's part of the glue that bonds us to one another. He's my swim buddy, 6 feet apart, never to be separated. And obviously, I don't mean that literally, that we're not separated physically, but we are always together in the conversation that we have. And that's really one of the ways that I was able to deal with him being in combat. It's the way all military spouses, I would imagine, or some of us, those who are more successful in those endeavors, see that as something you're doing together, even though you're worlds apart.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate your perspective on that. I also came from a divorced family. My mom and my dad divorced when I was very little. I don't even have memories, honestly, of living with my father. Um, so I can appreciate that. But I also want to get your point of view on the man's role as well. So, we've explored this idea that it's nearly impossible for a man to realize his full potential without a woman who can challenge him. But I'm curious about your thoughts, on the husband's role in your life. You've quoted Raquel Welch's quote that there are no hard women, only soft
Only
men.
soft men.
Yes. And so
I
what
can't
are your
believe
thoughts on
that.
this
It's
subject?
one of my favorites.
Yeah, we go deep. We go as deep as possibly anything
I love
public.
it. Yeah.
I love being stalked. Lucky for me. Yeah, so I think it is a mutually arising situation that a man needs the strength of a woman needs the strength of a man. There's, and when either of those is missing for a protracted period of time, the relationship's going to suffer. I mean, let's face it, we all have moments of weakness, but weakness as a way of being coupled with somebody who is strong ain't never going to last. So, to that point, Thom definitely challenges me at times to do more. I certainly challenge him. And I think it's one of his favorite things about me is that I have a way of very quietly and very silently just saying, "Are you done? Are you done? Are you going
He
to do
said
that?
that.
Stop."
He said that.
He said, "Are you done?" He said
He
that
literally
exact
said
phrase.
that exact thing. I love it.
Code word. The kids are like, "Oh, here she goes again." Yeah. So, I have very little tolerance for weakness in people. It's maybe a blessing, it's maybe a curse. It's just the way it is. I cannot tolerate it. I mean, very short periods of time and it's going to be the breakdown of a relationship. And that's not to say periods of weakness. We all have that. We're human. We suffer losses. We have to deal with those. But if everything and every obstacle that comes up is a complaint or, an excuse or a reason why you don't do what you're supposed to do or you've said you will do, you're the problem. Your character is the problem.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that we've had an issue with because I get mad at her complaining, but then there's things that are ongoing with me
That aren't getting
that
done.
are the causes of the complaints. Yeah, and then
I'm like, yeah, well.
yeah, it's like,
And I also don't want to
Young.
complain. So yeah.
well, let's talk about. I want to go further because this is such an important thing because I've seen how important it is for a wife and mother to have like goals of her own. And Maura got involved with launching an activewear company last year, and it really was honestly. I saw it. It gave her purpose. It was part of the reason why last year she had the most growth she's ever had in her life. I mean, I witnessed it before my eyes. And I see often because I'll be in here with her and like we see how husbands can sabotage their wives. And it's
Yeah.
they'll approach them, they'll talk whether it's an investment they need to make or a decision they want to make. And the way we see it is like it's really a formality unless we're also asking for advice as far as like, but if she believes that this is going to be good for her and good for the family, like I trust her, and so if there's an investment that needs to be made or if there's something that I need to do to switch my schedule around because we homeschool the kids, so this year there's a few things that I'm doing differently. But we see husbands all the time, they kind of sabotage it, and maybe you're going to be the one to help me put this into words on a post because I've been thinking about something to like kind of a PSA. So, what advice would you give to men knowing that, she wants to be a mother and a wife? That's awesome and I support that. But she also wants to have these other goals. And what advice would you give to men as far as when they talk to them about these things where it could be insecurity or whatever it be, what would you say to the men who have these reservations or yeah, who kind of get in the way?
I would question why any man would not want their wife to help contribute. Like, what is it about them? Like, if you have a complaint about something, I know it's a biblical thing, but every time you point your finger, there's three pointing back at you. But anybody who's going to attack their spouse for trying to increase the family's finances has got to have their own insecurities. Be man enough to let your woman be a woman. Don't limit that expression. Support all of those goals. And in terms of, I know that you said you trust her to do the right thing. I completely trust Thom. He trusts me too. But we check in continually. And what that might mean is, well, why are you doing it this way? Or why are you doing that? Or is this the best way for you? Or yes, you need to be doing more Facebook Live. Get out of your own way, or whatever it might be. So it's good to have open dialogue. And For men, I think they could be afraid of what their wife may or may not see them as if their wife becomes extremely successful financially. And that really is, it's a weakness. And embrace that instead of resisting it. Is it worth it to tear your relationship apart? It's really not. And oh, by the way, women are equal saboteurs to men. And I hate that in women when I see that. It's exhausting. And we do, in our leadership company, we do a lot of work with couples, and undoubtedly every single client that we have, the most impact we make is when we get to the relationship piece of their lives. So the 5 areas are physical, intellectual, wealth, relationship, and spiritual. And relationship really is the biggest pivotal game changer for them. It's really extraordinary and it was unexpected. And part of the curriculum that we have developed, I teach, and it's called Spartan Woman, where I teach 4 different concepts, and I have taught them to men as well as women. But strength in a couple is, it's unbelievable what can happen for a family, for a business, for a marriage, for the children who are involved and a part of those families, for people around you who watch what you're doing. I mean, being an example of a good, powerful marriage and a secure man, it rubs off, whether you're, either way, to the positive or the negative. If you're going to be insecure, that's going to rub off. But hey, don't be foolish. Let your wife go make some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is good because you brought something up that I think it's a good qualifier that, it's not, it is a trust, but it's also, it's a challenge as well to say, okay, tell me your plan. What's the plan? I want to know how you plan on approaching this. And same thing she would say to me if I had this idea where I want to just, I've come up with a business and I I'm all excited or something, and then
Right.
she's like, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And that's definitely different
Right.
than saying like, oh, we don't have the money for that, or
that's
how are you
dumb.
going to fit that into your schedule? It's definitely different. It's more of a challenge, like, and it's more of a sharpening of the sword.
Yeah, any responsible partner in business and marriage and life, they're going to question and challenge what you're choosing to do if they care. Why would you ever just say, "Oh, okay, that's awesome. You go do you." Like, well, hey, how can I help? What are you going to do? What's needed? Or is that too much? Is it going to take you away from the family time? Is it going to be okay? Like, how are we going to accommodate for the costs involved or the invasion of privacy in our homes? You guys are public, very public. So are we. So you have to really have major considerations for all of those things. But to have an open dialogue about it, sometimes it'll even get ugly. It's worth it. Don't leave anything unsaid. Don't leave anything unsaid. And I think that maybe is the tendency where we take swipes at each other instead of saying what's really there for us.
Yeah, or we just deny and we just kind of leave things unsaid. I'll tell you, when
I'm not about that.
no way, we there's no resentment. There's no, like, the only thing there is a little bit of resentment with that issue, like where I tell you not to complain, and then because I'm not doing my job in certain things. But like when I told her, and it was, I mean, it's empowering for me when I approach her and I'm like, my multiple 6-figure salary, I'm about to leave that to start a business. And her first question has nothing to do with finances. It has everything to do with, are you still going to be with the family? And that was one of the biggest things that we talked about. And I was a little bit in denial, thinking that I would have more time because I would be home more. But in reality,
when you work for yourself,
their company has way more time with family.
yeah,
yeah.
It's like I went from a 9 to 5 to a 5 to 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say that I'm proud of, super proud, and I told her, and I even asked the boys. We were driving in the car alone, me and the boys, and when I was at the part of the relationship stuff where Thom was talking about, he was at a seminar talking to neuro linguistic NLP people, and he was asking them about their partner's goals. Like, we know our goals. My sons know her goals. Like, so
They're so
our
cute.
family knows our goals. So Well, actually,
yeah, this is a great segue into because we kind of brought up the kids. And
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually really excited to talk to you about this. So let's talk about your role with the boys, because we did talk to Thom about this, and he did say, the woman, the mom makes the boys. And I come from an all girl household. So it's been a little bit of a shocker. I can't lie. Like, some of the things that these boys do, I'm like, good Lord, I've never done that in my life. I can't even relate to it sometimes.
Yep.
And I'm learning it. It's all fun. Like, I truly like know that was meant for me. But yeah, I would like to just get your perspective on, raising boys. But then after that, of course, at the same time, we probably do have listeners with daughters. And so, how do you view your role as a mom of either boys or even with daughters?
So I have a
And
girl
you do have a girl, yeah.
yes. So first of all, how old are your boys?
They're 9 and 6.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, so this is just like we fight all day. Play fight or real fight. It all sounds the same. It's just loud.
Oh yeah.
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 I find myself just like, shh.
Yeah.
There's no, and so our boys who are home are 20 and 14, loudest house ever. It's not, you got a long way to go. It's complete chaos constantly. And my strongest advice to you would be not to resist that. Savor it. It's fleeting. When I met Thom, Autumn and Garrett, his children from his first marriage, were 7 and 4. They're now 23 and 20. And I miss every day of the mess, the chaos, the noise, the demands on me. And, I wouldn't trade those moments for anything. Boys are totally different. I mean, we were completely blessed with Autumn. And I know when she was in high school, all of my friends who had teenage daughters were lamenting the challenges and difficulty of life with a teenage girl. And I often felt bad because I never had that. I mean, I'm sorry I can't relate, but I never had a sassy, bitchy daughter. She was just rock star and still is. She's awesome. So, and my boys, I think you have to teach them how to treat women. And you do that by demanding of them what you want in terms of respect. What you will not settle for less. So make sure that they treat you the way you want them to treat their wives and tolerate nothing less. So, it's important that a strong woman trains young boys to grow into chivalrous gentlemen. And I don't care what current philosophy is on the roles of men and women. Chivalry should never die.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
let them be strong. Don't make wussies of your boys. Let them get hurt. Don't never impress your fears upon them. That's a big thing. Like, you can make a boy a weakling by freaking out if you see they're getting hurt. And I cannot imagine what that was like to have your son sustain those sort of injuries and go through that. So it's got to be exceptionally difficult for you to say, he's going to get hurt. It's going to be okay. I got to let him be a boy and let them have failures. I remember our youngest, there were times when, and I know you've had these moments with your boys, there's something going on at school, at sports, with their friends, with discipline with their dad, and you want to rescue them. You want to alleviate that discomfort. Don't do it. Let it go. Let them have those formative moments that will end up ensuring they can make it through difficult moments in their life. Yeah.
And I'll say something that she really helped me with. It was just a prompt that she told me, and I was like, yeah, that's good. Which is like, don't disrespect my wife. I tell them just like that. That's my wife. Like, I'm like, don't talk like that in front of my wife.
Mom,
yeah, I'm like, that's
but
my
it's good
wife.
for them to see, right?
Yep.
That's
Like,
your wife.
do not disrespect her, because they'll say words, and I'm like, look, you shouldn't say that, but I get it.
Mom, right? But it's
I get it, but not in front of your mom. And then, the oldest, he likes to, like, at night, he's comfortable in his underwear. I'm like, you can't be walking around my house in your underwear with my wife around, like, you're
Getting older.
yeah, he's getting older. So it's like, huh? What'd
Not
you say?
appropriate.
Yeah, it's just not
Not
appropriate.
appropriate.
It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is good
Here we
because
go.
here we come full circle because this is great. This is kind of your mission. So, what would you say to people who don't like the direction this country's headed, but they have a mindset of actually taking action? So, how can we as individuals and communities, affect change when we see a culture that's really, we see it as diseased, and we see the fact that, like, how powerful culture is, because I'm saying, like, look at the First Amendment. It doesn't even matter if the First Amendment's no longer even applicable if you have private companies that are doing, deplatforming you, stopping to do business with you, and the culture's so diseased that we're not standing up as a culture to say, hey, that's wrong. We should not give them our business, because that's what's happening. I see that as even more dangerous than government doing it, because the government, I noticed everybody was worried about the vaccinations, for example. And I think the government realizes that they don't need to do that. They have the private companies do their dirty work for them. Like, oh, you can't fly on our airline if you don't get, this vaccine, or if you don't have, whatever this is. So, kind of what can people do on a local level, in different areas too? It doesn't have to be just politics.
Culture drives policy, not the other way around. And people who share our ideology have abdicated our authority when it comes to culture, education, entertainment, everything, you name it. We have stepped away from it for so long. We all need to get back involved. And you see that there's a resurgence of those things. I can't remember the name of it, but there's an alternative to Netflix. There are more artists who are coming out, who are mainstream pop artists, who are producing Christian songs that are being picked up on mainstream news, or I'm sorry, mainstream radio stations. Like Lauren Daigle is just one. There's all of that, and we need to grow that movement. And when there are artists and outlets like that, we need to support them and ask that others do the same. In terms of, what can we do? It takes our engagement in that. And in terms of politics, which is responsible for everything that goes on, there's nothing in your life that you can point to that doesn't have an attachment to politics. And I would dare anybody to try to challenge me on that. There's nothing, from the clothes you wear to the devices we're recording on to your house, and everything is touched by it, regardless if you want it to be or not. We've abdicated our authority there, and people feel like they have done their civic duty because they've gone and voted. And that makes me so furious. I could never vote again and have, I don't know, 100 times the impact on the political space that most everybody I know it has. So the definition of politics is social relations involving strategy to gain authority. And we typically want to go immediately to the authority piece and, wag our finger in somebody's face, an elected official. But I'd like to ask people, how does that work if somebody does that to you? How are you going to respond to somebody who just comes up to you, you've never met them before, and they start telling you what you're going to do? Is that going to work? That's not an effective way. And by the way, elected officials are us. They are not the smartest people in the world by any stretch. They're no different than you and me, from the school board, county council, city council, federal level, state house. They're just people. And the process of lawmaking, with a couple of different changes and modifications, it's the same no matter where you are. I've sat and watched committee hearings in DC, which, that's open to the public. You have to get make some arrangements to actually do that, but you can listen to those things. I've done the same thing with county council and with our state house here in South Carolina. The biggest thing people can do is find like-minded individuals who also don't like the way things are going, and develop plans to have relationships with the lawmakers who can make those changes. And we oftentimes wait until we have something we're not happy about to go meet with our county council member. I challenge everybody listening, go and meet your school board member, your county councilor, your state house rep, your state house senator, and just get to know them. Don't ask them for anything. Open-ended questions. What made you get into politics? What are your priorities? How does this affect your family you serving? And ask them this and mean it. What can I do to help you? Their jobs are incredibly difficult because we get behind people. We work really hard to get them elected. And then we go, I've done my job. You're in office. Now you do my bidding. But people don't understand. Here's what happens as soon as an elected official is sworn in. The party, whichever party they're, representing, comes to them and says something that sounds like this. Congratulations on a hard-fought race. You won this election. And now you're going to be part of what we're doing here. And if you would like to have a committee position later or a subcommittee, then you're going to do like Jim Bob Joe over here, who was elected 2 years ago and kept his mouth shut and sat down. So it leads us to believe that all the power is in the governing body. That is only true because we have taken our foot off the gas. We have stopped doing the work of being in a republic. If a group of citizens who's worked to get somebody elected, or who just is in the district and says, these are the agenda items that the elected official and the people in the district really agree on, they can run enough political cover that they can tell the party, hey, look, all those people who are outside, those are my constituents. I can't possibly vote the way you're asking me to. They're here to support me doing this for them. So we can give political cover to the people who are serving us so that they can do truly what they want to do. They don't run for office, spend the money, put their families through that, work the hours required. Running for office is 16 hours a day until the election is over. It's brutal. It's brutal. People don't understand. And that's at every level. That's not just, the things you see on television. And then when they get there, they don't want to operate and cast votes the way the party tells them. They really want to do the work of the people. And they are then subject to pressure on all kinds of sides. They've got a bunch of lobbyists out in the hall. They've got the party leadership telling them to do this. And then they can't even remember everything about the people that got them elected and what mattered to them because they're in a meat grinder and they need our help, and it's incumbent upon us to give it to them.
Gosh, that's we haven't thought about that, and that's a
Yeah.
really good point. And it kind of reminds me, like Maura, her group of friends, most of them are teachers, and it's like the same situation. They're idealistic, they love children, they have a heart for education, and then there's like no support. They're having to buy while the administrators are, getting rich, they're
Yeah.
having to buy all this stuff. Yeah,
richer.
yeah,
They're buying
richer and
other
richer.
stuff, and they're buying all their own school supplies.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and I think it's something that it's easy to do. I've only done it when I had a complaint. Like
It's true.
I'll say, why are
Yeah.
you doing this? Don't vote for
Yeah,
this.
when it's almost like too late.
Yeah, and then I get a
Yeah.
form letter, and then of course the cycle of anger is perpetuated. Because it's like, he
Yeah.
didn't listen to me. His office just sent me something.
Right.
Um, that's a really good point. Now, I want to take it further. This is something that I've been thinking about, and I don't even know if you have any thoughts on how we got here. I know that the media and social media has had a big part, and I think there was just a study that was done that it takes 48 to 52 months to radicalize someone. And it's funny because that's right around the same the amount of time that Trump was in office. And like I remember a time, like if we look back to the 90s, I'm about to turn 40. Like it used to be like at the cooler, it was like, oh, Tom's a Republican, don't talk to him, or like, oh, don't talk to her, she's a Democrat, and we'd have these conversations and we'd talk about issues like abortion and the border and like all these things, but it was never as toxic as it is.
Yeah.
And even in 2001, like I was in New York City, I was at college when the 9/11 happened, and I don't know how we lost this ability to, one, disagree. We lost the ability to unite behind a common cause. Like imagine collecting, like buying federal notes now, or like reserve notes to support, the world effort like they did in World War II. Like that's gone. So, if you have thoughts on how we got here, I'd love to hear them. But really, the more important question is, how can we talk to our friends who we disagree with? And I'm not talking about how can we convince them. I do tend to believe that we're much more alike than we're not, especially us as Latin Americans. Like, we have a lot in common with a lot of cultures, with, Black culture, if there is such a thing. Um, and I don't know how we've gotten here, but really more importantly is, how can we get back to a place where we can disagree with stuff, we can talk normally and civilly. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so everything has been politicized in order to divide us. We're being gaslighted every moment of the day as the media onslaught and the social media onslaught. I would say, don't throw your pearls before swine. Be very, very cautious about the outlets that you're going to give credence to. Don't take things so freaking seriously when you read something. And don't, like, being a nonstop reaction machine makes you a chess piece to the Leviathan government and media. Just stop reacting. And, if you go and get on an airplane and sit down and have a conversation with somebody, is the first thing you lead with, what is your political philosophy?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, try to find common ground, be concerned with people's children and their livelihoods, and, how they're impacted by whatever, the coronavirus or the weather or anything going on. Just try to find something other than politics to discuss. I mean, in everything, they've injected politics. So my background in finance, when I had retail clients and investments, I would tell them to turn off CNBC. They would call me in a panic. Oh my gosh, did you hear what they're saying today? Do you know what the Fed's going to do? Oh my goodness. So there's always something to worry about. And if you look to the source of the information that you're getting, they're paid by advertisers who want as many people watching their programming as possible. So they're not going to say, the market's pretty stable today, things are good, you can go about your life. They're going to tell you something to keep you fearful and tied to the television screen. And the news is no different. And there's a reason that the media has like a 13% approval rating. People do not believe what they're selling anymore. And the more you take on those things as if they're true, the more you can look at people in a judgmental light. It's not good for us to do to one another. And they can only do this if we allow them. And, in terms of bringing people to the other side, as so to speak, like you brought up, one of the things that I do, and not that this was what you asked, but there are a lot of people who are Democrats that I love. I love people. I don't go, oh my gosh, I can't possibly have anything to do with you. They're good people. But one of the things I like to do is have the Democrat platform and the Republican platform without the titles and say, which one of these do you believe? And they're like, well, that one. I'm like, yeah, you're a Republican. I've been telling you. They've just been, this is not the party of JFK. It is not. And, these are good and decent people, and there's so much manipulation going on, but we can only be manipulated if we allow it. And be careful who you listen to. Be very, very careful. And, that movie, The Social Experiment, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's completely true. And for years, and it's probably because of the training I had in the financial services, I just don't watch the media. I go get my news in other places. I haven't tuned into television news in decades.
Can't do it either.
Well, my
pay
friend,
for cable.
yeah, I have a friend, he's ex-CIA and Special Forces, and he says whenever there's something regional or local, he'll give it 2 weeks. He'll put it in a file and he'll give it 2 weeks. And when it's something national or global, he'll give it 2 years before he actually looks at it. Because it's so you gotta just let all the dust settle and all you gotta let all the crap fall so you can see clearly. And that stuck with me because it was also in line with the things that I've seen, like some of our greatest leaders. Eisenhower didn't he's like he was really big on things that are urgent versus things that are important. And even Napoleon was like, I think he would also give these urgent letters, like he would give them space before he actually read them, because all these things they're being sent to us as if they're urgent. Quick, make an emotional decision.
Right.
And it's for me, it's really important because when I left my corporate job, I tend to think everything is awesome. So I'm just like, opportunity,
Yes.
and so
That's why he has me. I'm like, wait.
yeah.
I'm like, I have intuition.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then I'm just like, well, you don't just see how awesome this is.
Balance.
I know.
Yeah.
But this year it's like, nope, we're not going to get taken off. And I like when the election thing happened with me personally, on November 3rd, I said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to operate as if, there's the conclusion is this way, and if it goes the other way, awesome, and if there's anything I could do, but most of the things that were happening were out of my control. And I had a speech or something prepared for regardless of what happened. It was like, if it here Republicans, this is what I got to tell you, or here Democrats, this is what I have to tell you, because people, these are the things that make people, they keep them from doing awesome things. Like it's like, oh my gosh, Trump is president, the world is over, or oh my gosh, Biden's president, the world is over. Like regardless, I keep mentioning World War II and the Depression. Like there were winners. Everybody didn't lose. Yeah, people knew they won in spite of it. So it just
some of the most difficult things people deal with in the midst of all of this is a lot of anxiety and depression from the never-ending onslaught of information warfare that we're subject to.
It's exhausting.
And one of the best things is turning off the television and taking action of some sort. And I know you guys are gonna your testimony would be physical action, and I couldn't agree more. Working out is probably the best thing for your mental health ever. But then if you feel forlorn about what's going on politically, get busy, reach out, start getting people involved with you. Go meet your school board members. They spend more money than anybody. It's unbelievable. It's like a sleepy little race for school board, but yet we've abdicated that authority. And look what's going on in our public schools. Your kids are homeschooled for a reason. Mine's in private school for a reason. Yep. But we're still paying for all that.
Yes, I know. That's what kills me, because Maura said,
that's the part that kills me.
we
can't we opt out?
Yeah, she said this the other day. She's like, we need to tell all of our friends that keep complaining about this stuff, like, you guys need to all stand outside or whatever you need to do. Find who you're going to talk to and do something about it. You can't just be having things done to you like this. Like you're not a victim,
you're not a victim.
They stay victims.
Yeah. And it is, it's never as bad as people think it's going to be. I remember, so I'm 51, and I remember during the Obama years, everybody like being totally freaked out. Oh my God, we're going to be put in FEMA camps.
And the guns
stop.
too.
Just stop. Yep. And I don't know if you guys remember, I think when we first moved here, there was a military operation or exercise going on that was training on domestic soil. And it was called Jade Helm. And they were like operating inside of like cleared out Walmarts or grocery stores. Everybody losing their minds, saying, oh my God, our military is going to start coming for us, because it was during the Obama years. And I saw this shirt and it said, I survived Jade Helm, and all I got was this tinfoil hat.
That's good.
It's the best. People think to overreact, but your reaction's up to you. And don't be so powerless and react. Do something about it. And I also cannot stand that like big mouth. Oh, we're gonna have a civil war. I got my guns ready.
I
Shut up.
I had to that was my father, and I said, "No, you're not." I said, "No, you're not. You're not. Like, please stop saying that." And I told him, "You know who they don't mess with? They don't mess with the Amish. They don't mess with the Quakers. They don't mess with the Hasidic Jews.
Hasidic
Like,
Jews.
you want to do something,
You gotta like
buy some land and
buy some
find some
land.
friends
Do the
that you
thing.
have the same." That's action right there. Like, you have the same likes. If you don't like the masks, then create a
Start a
community where
community.
there's no masks. If you don't like the vaccines, start a school where you don't have forced vaccinations. Like, it takes action. It's much harder,
Of course.
but that's why we do the things that we do. We just gotta say,
Or
okay,
get involved with lawmaking where you are
yeah,
and
Exactly.
have
yeah, do that too.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're you're more on that side, and I'm like, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna live on the side here. I'm just gonna operate
Hey,
parallel.
how about we go D, all the above?
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, there's
Do it
gonna be
all.
different roles for everybody.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and chat with us. You did mention your podcast, but we also would love to know, what other projects and goals do you have for 2021? Anything personally or anything you want to share that we can help spread the word
Yeah,
as well?
I have a couple of things. So definitely the Civic Bitchslap podcast is big.
So good.
Because we think part of it is it's like a double entendre. So the bitch slap is going to people who have been on the sidelines for way too long. Bitch slap is also going to the elected officials who aren't doing the right thing. And we have a cute disclaimer where we say, we are not actually wanting you to go slap anybody.
Oh, very important
Yeah, don't be
nowadays.
inciting violence.
Yeah.
Important. We're not about violence. And then the other big thing that I'm working on this year is taking the Spartan woman training. So I have we're doing several retreats this year for the Spartan woman training. So instead of it being classroom, it's going to be a weekend retreat with other women.
Ooh.
That's going to be really empowering. And probably the most important piece of it, and what made me take it from being an in-classroom curriculum to something that we actually physically do over a weekend, is being in the military community, and in particular in the SEAL community. I've never known more badass women than Navy SEAL wives. Holy moly. Like real, very badass women. And the friendships and the bonds that you forge with these people, I could go years without speaking to them and be in Los Angeles with a flat tire and accidentally dial their number and they're going to come and help me. Like you're so solid. And having transitioned to retirement, and everybody thinks, or civilians think, oh my gosh, that's so great. You've got to be so happy you're out. And I'm like, no, I want to go back. Can't you just do one or two more deployments, Thom? Really? Do you have to be so selfish?
We talked about that because you get that adrenaline dump too. Like when you stop doing something that you're so invested in, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, I was also one of the older wives, and I felt like an obligation to the younger spouses who, especially those who were new to it, like, holy moly, your husband's going to be gone 250 days a year on average. He might not live. You're going to be figuring out a whole lot of stuff by yourself. This amazing, strong group of women, it was continues to be so incredibly important to me. And it took me a while, but I've been able to recreate that among my friends after military life. And we are so close. And because of the tremendous gifts that come out of those relationships, I really want to create an environment where other women can have those friendships among either the people who attend, or when the people who attend go back to their respective communities and share all those things. In addition to those things and the teaching, there's definitely some great pampering going on, a lot of quiet time for women who don't get a whole lot of that, and an experience to hang out with a group of Navy SEALs at the same time. So it's a wonderful weekend. It'll change your life. And that's probably, so those are my two big initiatives. They may seem like they're hugely worlds apart, but they're all about being a strong woman, a strong citizen, and a contributor to your community and those around you.
I love that. Where can they find out more information about that?
The
Is there a website?
SpartanWoman.com.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
thespartanwoman.com.
Got it.
Yep.
That's good because I think her idea is a little bit less optimal. Like she says that she wouldn't mind being Baker acted because like she gets a few square
I joke
meals.
about it. I'm like, it sounds
I
fun. Like,
know
I'm
what
like arts and
Baker
crafts.
Would
I'm
you-
like,
people outside of Florida know what that is.
oh, so wait, that's only a Florida thing?
is that only a Florida thing?
That's only a Florida thing.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
my
So for
gosh,
anybody
that's
who's not
so
in Florida,
funny. And of course, I'm a recovering addict, so I know these things like Baker Act.
Yeah.
But these are not.
yeah.
These are
so
normal
so
Eastern
this is, I think, what is it, 72 hours?
I think it is 72 hours.
So it's when your family or friends are concerned about,
you're gonna harm
you're gonna
yourself.
harm yourself. So
or someone else.
they'll call the police, and then you'll have to stay in like a facility
I
for
know, but like
for a long
you're
weekend.
probably doing like arts and crafts.
Yeah,
I love doing
it's a pretty long weekend.
I was like, hey, Precious, you do arts and crafts, like if you're like little medicine, you just don't care about anything.
So at our weekend, you're going to be doing ladies at the bonfire with all the fixins, and you're
I
going to
love
be
it.
have an opportunity to go do some shooting with seals, or maybe some
Ooh.
horseback riding, maybe a little yoga, and
I'm all
meeting
about it.
some amazing women.
I love that.
Yep.
I think Tanya would love that too. I'm gonna
Oh,
see if she
yeah.
wants to go with me.
Well, we're gonna do April 11th and 12th, the 24-hour challenge. So
Oh, awesome.
so yeah.
So I'll tell you a little bit about my participation in that. So
Ooh.
I come out when everybody's still super excited.
Yeah, not at
I
2
get
a.m.
good cop. Tom's a bad cop. I'm the good cop. It's so great. So I walk like 5 to 10 miles with everybody, and I really try to have conversations with each participant so they have the opportunity to ask any questions they may have of me, anything they want to know about what our life was like in the military, transition, our life now, or just get to know me. And then I go home and I show up again when y'all are finished with coffee and donuts. And so I get to be like, oh my God, oh,
You're
Stacy's
like the savior, yeah.
That is
yeah,
awesome.
Stacy's back.
here. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a life-changing experience, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person.
We
We're
can't wait
excited.
either, and we can't wait for you to meet our really good friends who are from Nebraska. Jamie, I don't know if Tom's told you about Jamie.
I think he just went on her podcast.
She went on his podcast.
Oh, she went.
So she just did the
Is she
Titan
the physician?
Games. What'd you say?
She the physician?
Yeah, she's an OBGYN. She's
Yes.
yeah, and
She's
her husband's
incredible.
an LEO over there in Omaha. Ben, I trained him for a bodybuilding show that was canceled last year, but at least he got a good photo shoot out of it. And we're just, all four of us are like, man, our friendship is just going to be taken to a whole different level now.
Yep, that's awesome. I love it. Before I met Tom, I was involved in Miss Figure.
Oh, get out! That's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and as a personal sort of goal, I'm in the middle of regaining my fitness between, kids and growing a business and moving and kind of figuring out everything. And military transition it's no joke, man. It's really freaking hard. It was the hardest moments in our marriage. It was the hardest, most what's the right word? There was no certainty about anything that was going on with us, and that's a big struggle. So I just let myself go, not like in a huge way, obviously, but I'm not quite where I want to be, but I'm really making some crazy good progress and feeling so good about myself again.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm gonna use that because you mentioned the transition, and I think that's why I love this. We work with a company called Bubs, and they make collagen and MCT powder, and it's named after Glenn Bub Doherty, who was at
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So you know his whole story.
Yeah. Yeah, we know Glenn and Ty. Yep.
Yeah, so they basically, like, the 10% of all their sales goes to, I forget the name of but the actual charity is aimed at helping people transition back into civilian life, because it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
number one, you have to be trained to turn off the whole thing that says I shouldn't kill someone, and that alone
Why?
is kind of what I'm saying. Like a lot of people, that's naturally not a thing. A lot of people,
Right.
they have, and so you have to go back into life, and when someone's makes you angry, you can't just go do something like that. You can't be violent with them. So I think that's part of it, and just in general, just getting back into civilian life. I mean, I'm sure it's very hard, especially
Really hard.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't feel like anybody can relate to you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
things are so different. There's, meritocracy versus what you see in civilian life. And then as a couple, you go from having very clear defined lanes to everything being completely blurred. It's really hard. But, talk about making a strong marriage really stronger. Phenomenal experience. And that was, you ask about my relationship with Thom and what it is between a man and woman that really makes things. And it's knowing that in the throes of things being so freaking hard, that what you have to rely upon without question is each other.
Yeah.
It
We
makes
got a
anything
glimpse of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a glimpse of it with, with the ordeal with Dean, because it was like, going into that ER, room, and seeing my son and having to step out for like 10 seconds
Yeah, because
to
you don't
just,
really have answers yet.
yeah.
It's like there's no answers.
And
There's
then just
what you
like,
see.
yeah.
Right.
And I mean, you don't know if his head's cracked open, you don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. There's blood and his eyes are rolling back. So we just started praying, and then we just grew closer than ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
And he was 4, so it's like a little. He was
I
like
know.
so little, but
And so
So
beautiful.
tiny.
he is a tough
Yes.
cookie.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great story. I mean, not that going through that, but his recovery and the way that you came together. I mean, I have friends, probably you have friends who have lost a loved one, a child, or somebody significant, and it's torn their marriage apart. It's amazing, really a great testament to both of you.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So one last thing. So we got thespartanwoman.com. We have unbreakableLeadership.com. Where else can people find more about you and what you're working on?
The Civic Bitchslap.
Oh, yeah.
Civic Bitchslap.
Is that the
You guys are
website
in.
too?
That's
The Civic Bitch?
it's the
So
podcast.
it's a podcast, and we haven't quite developed the website yet, but there will be. I mean, we have the domains. So
Perfect. But it will be on Friday, you said.
Yep, it's going to be released on Friday.
Perfect.
I'm gonna
Awesome.
listen.
Cool. We'll make sure to listen to it and promote that.
Well, we were honored to have you, Stacy. Thank you so much for coming on, and can't wait to
We
meet you
can't
in
wait
April.
to meet you in person. Yeah.
Awesome. See y'all in a couple months. Thanks for having me on.